They said, are you here?
Yeah.
They said calculate in dollar Air India's loss in 2018. When you talk about loss of profit, it is total revenue minus total cost. The total revenue for Air India is $2.2 billion and the total cost is 2.9 billion. So 2.2 billion minus 2.9 billion, that is 0.7 billion. So that's the loss. Question 2. B. He said, identify 2 substitutes for air travel. When you talk about substitute goods, these are goods or services that have replacement that can be used as a replacement for that goods in question. So when you talk about substitute, we're talking about goods that there are other goods that can replace it. That's substitute. So for Air India or for airline, we're talking about maybe train transportation or sea transportation, which is train or ships. Yeah. That's clear. We go to question C. They said, explain one characteristic that suggests that Air India was a monopoly in 1994. When we talk about monopoly is a market structure, which with one supplier of goods or services. That's what monopoly is. Then, what are the characteristics of monopoly? 1, price maker. As Air India is able to set the price, as at 1994, the only firm. Air India was the only firm in that industry because it has 100% share. And lack of competition. That's the third characteristic of monopoly. There's no one competing with Air India in that industry. I think that is clear. Yes. So we'll go to question D. It said, explain 2 reasons why a government may privatize industry. First, what is privatization? Privatization is the transfer of government or state-owned assets, state-owned businesses to the hands of private sector or to the hands of the private sector, which can be maybe private individuals or private firms. So what are the reasons why firms, government, state-owned businesses might become privatized? Number 1, I said higher productivity. One of the reasons why we could have privatization is because of higher productivity. And the private sector is characterized with improving its efficiency based on the fact that it is profit-oriented. And as a private firm, because the motive is about profit maximization, you would want to put so much effort to be able to sell goods and services that are valuable to consumers. So that means there's efficiency. So there's more efficiency in the private sector than the public sector because the public sector is not profit-oriented. It's just about servicing. Yes. 2, affordable prices. If Air India becomes privatized, it allows more airlines to come into that industry. As a result of that, prices become cheaper because airline becomes different airlines will be able, customers will be able to choose from different airlines. So price becomes affordable due to increase in numbers of airlines, consumer choices. That was the second point. I think it's clear. Yes. We go to E. Analyze how India position on the current account of its balance of payments in 2017 compares with other 4 countries. So the first thing I wrote about the current account deficit, 1 is that India's current account deficit is the largest in terms of the amount. In terms of the amount, yeah. It is the highest because it's minus 48.7. That's the largest deficit there. But when it comes to the current account percentage of GDP, it is the second best. Is it clear? In terms of percentage of GDP.
Second
largest.
Largest deficit.
It is the largest. It is India's current account deficit is the largest in terms of billion in dollars. In terms of dollar, is the largest because it's having a negative 48.7 billion. But when it comes to current account percentage, it is the second largest. It's positive 1.4. Positive 1.4. Aside Russia, India, is second largest. Yeah, 1.9. Sorry. Yeah, 1.9 is the second largest. Aside Kenya and yes, aside Kenya.
Yeah, Brazil is the third.
It's third. I think that is clear. Then we go to another point I made is that Brazil, India, and Kenya had a current account deficit, while China and Russia had a current account surplus. I think that is clear.
Yes.
We go to F. They said, discuss, analyze how a successful airline industry can promote economic growth. A successful airline industry can promote economic growth in the following ways. Number one, cost of production. Cost of production might have reduced. And if cost of production reduces, it increases firms' profit, which gives them the incentive to want to expand. That's one. Number two, employment might increase. Because it's a successful airline, so that means they would have made a lot of profit. So as a result of that, they might increase employment. And if employment increases, it increases the income level as a result of that. So demand will also increase. And with demand increasing, income tax revenue might increase, which means government might be able to use income tax revenue to spend on government on education, to train even pilots or the workforce.
Yes.
So those are the 3 points. I think it's clear.
Yes.
Then we have G. Discuss whether the Indian government should increase tax on airline fuel or not. I said they should. One, an increase in tax revenue. Okay. Yeah, I said the Indian government should increase tax on airline fuel based on the following reasons. Number one, an increase in tax revenue, it increased tax revenue, which may be spent on training more pilots. Number one. Two, an increase in airline fuel taxes will be a burden on the rich, not the poor. An increase in air fuel taxes would be a burden on the rich, not the poor. Which means government might be able to reduce indirect taxes on food or basic needs. Do you get the point I make there?
Yes, yes.
Okay. The third point is that it may also reduce market failure, as air travel will cause air or noise pollution. So market failure would reduce. Do you get it?
Yes.
Why? Because the demand for airline might fall. So more airlines might stop operations due to airline fuel, or they might reduce their transportation because they have to increase prices. And if they increase prices, demand for airline might increase. The price for airline might increase, meaning the demand for airline would reduce. Customers might start thinking for substitutes like train or ship. Is it clear?
Yes.
So go to H. Discuss whether more people will apply to be pilots for Indian Airlines in the future. I said no. More people might not apply to be a pilot in the future based on the following reason. One, the cost of training may increase. And what might be as a result of this when the cost of training might increase in the future. And if the cost of training increase in the future, this might discourage pilots to want to take such training, or even sponsors. They might not want to be able to, sponsor pilots. That's the first point. Two, other jobs might offer better salaries or better working conditions than those of pilots. That's another reason. The third point is about advancement in technology. So there might be planes that have to be flew without pilots. So advancement in technology might reduce the demand for pilots, which means other skills might be needed to fly planes. That's the third point. Is it making sense?
Yes.
And the fourth point I make is that increased tax on airline fuel might reduce the number of airlines in the operations. So if the number of airlines in operation reduces, people might understand that there's no job opportunity in the airline industry because there are no much airlines in operation. Do you get the point I'm making here? When you feel like there's job opportunity in an industry, you might want to go for a career path that leads to that industry. But if, for example, as a result of an increase in taxes on air fuel reduces the number of firms or the number of airlines in that industry, that means people will see it like there's no job in the airline industry. So we have to start thinking about other job opportunity aside the airline industry.
Yes.
So that will reduce the potential of workers in the airline industry or pilots in the airline industry. I think it's